Unless we build it now. United States, Africa, we salute ya. A new state of mind, I introduce ya. Close your eyes and visualize the rise of a new paradigm. Solar powered skyscrapers.
Welcome to the Africa Must Unite podcast, a podcast dedicated to inspiring African people worldwide to rise up, organize, and struggle for Pan-Africanism, a unified, liberated, socialist Africa, the only permanent solution to the exploitation and oppression of African people, no matter where they happen to be born or happen to live in the world. Now please, welcome the hosts of Africa Must Unite.
Africa's future is now, so get ready.
Revolutionary and Pan-African greetings, everybody. I'm Mama D, and this is the Africa Must Unite podcast. And
I'm this is Tokes Adewale in Ghana. Greetings to everyone.
Isn't that beautiful? And we are the Pan-African Revolutionary Socialist Party, and PRSP, and we are delighted to be starting off a new year, 2024, with our podcast again. And as usual, we always start with a few dates in the calendar month, and this is the month of January, and our brother Tokes has some calendar dates that he would like to highlight.
Yeah, one I would really love to highlight is Amy Ashwood Garvey. She was a co-organizer and co-founder and organizer of the UNIA. She was born on January 10th in 1897. She's doesn't get enough credit. She's not only the founder of the UNIA, but she helped to build it. And when her and Garvey kind of broke ways, she still was engaged in so much Pan-African activity. So yeah, highlight to Amy Ashwood Garvey, born in January 10th, 1897.
Wonderful.
Mm-hmm. And there may be one or two others. Of course, Ahmed Sekou Touré was born on January 9th, 1922. He's the kind of leader that, like Nkrumah and Patrice Lumumba and others who didn't compromise with the people's independence and freedom, and rejected the attempt to integrate Guinea with the French Federation. That's what the young people are doing in Guinea, Guinea-Bissau, and Mali, and so many other countries these days. Sekou Touré was a wonderful example, and he was born again January 10th. January 9th, 1922. Mm-hmm. And yeah. So I guess maybe the last one I'll highlight is Haiti's independence in 1804. Haiti was such an important example of what Africans can do when they unite and organize, and in this case engage in armed struggle. They defeated the French slave masters and just showed the way. These people have never forgiven Haiti for that, and Haiti continues to be punished for that activity. Nonetheless, the history is made, and we have to continue to defend Haiti and follow in Haiti's path. Thank you.
Oh, that's wonderful, and the extra information, the background that you bring to those dates, very helpful, very informative. And as usual, we want to say, and Tokes knows this, that all of our Africa Must Unite AMU podcasts are guided by the content of our annual calendars. And the focus, the themes of our calendars are guided by what the Pan-African Revolutionary Socialist Party perceives as the most pressing issue confronting our people worldwide, the most pressing issue standing in the way of our liberation. So this year, perceiving the need for our people to unite around one theory, one ideology, in order to more effectively and quickly bring about our permanent liberation, Pan-Africanism, our focus then is on Nkrumaism, the ideology that we believe should unite all African people, the ideology that we believe shines the way forward to our liberation. So what we wrote in our introduction to our calendar is this. We started off, the theme of the calendar, of course, is Nkrumaism, shining the way forward through the crisis in today's African world. And we start off with a quotation from Osajifo, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah from Nkrumaism. And he wrote, though the ideology is the key to the inward identity of its group, it is an intent solidarist, bringing us together, in other words, end quote. And what we wrote in the introduction to January is named after Kwame Nkrumah, the foremost architect of the African Revolution. Nkrumaism, the ideology for all African people, those at home and those abroad, shines the way forward to our permanent liberation. It teaches us that we are one people, an African people, that our enemy is capitalism, no matter its manifestation, that our objective is Pan-Africanism, a unified socialist Africa, that organization is the key to achieving that objective. And most importantly, it teaches us to use the best tool, the best tactic that is at our disposal at any given time based on our current material reality. Global Africans, we give thanks that there are so many organizations struggling for Pan-Africanism. The wealth, breadth, and depth of insightful information that we receive daily from revolutionary Pan-African organizations throughout the African world is phenomenal. But think how much more effective we could be, how many more Africans we could politically educate, mobilize, and organize if we embrace the same ideology. Of course, monolithic ideological unity does not mean that we all must belong to the same organization. It means that we'll all be moving forward, guided by a shared belief system, one that shines the way forward to our lasting liberation. The Pan-African Revolutionary Socialist Party, PRSP, is convinced that Nkrumaism is the ideology that can unite us in strength, arming us to become a more formidable force against global capitalism in all of its manifestations, sustaining us in the face of our enemies' many machinations. So in celebration of the 40th anniversary of PRSP's production of annual calendars, this calendar, our 2024 calendar, shares our ideology and explains why we believe that it is the ideology which best shines the way forward through the crisis in today's African world. So, Brother Tokes, that's what we have in our introduction to the month of January in our 2024 calendar. And we just wanted to clarify, why the focus for this year. And now we'd just like to take a little time to introduce the themes that are coming up in our future podcasts. So we would like to do that, and I think, Brother Coach, you'll start off with what's coming up in February.
Okay, in January. Oh, I'm coming. Oh. Sorry. So in February, we have the theme of who is the enemy of African people, and so each that month is committed to understanding who opposes what the opposition forces that we are fighting as a people.
And that's true. And we use a quote in there that it's another quote from Nkrumah in A Class Struggle in Africa, when he writes it is only the ending of this enemy, and he names it capitalism, colonialism, imperialism, and neocolonialism, and the attainment of world communism that can provide the conditions under which the race question can finally be abolished and eliminated. So that's one of the many quotations, isn't it, Tokes, that we have from Nkrumah on who our enemy is.
That's right. That's right.
And in March, we focus on the new tactics of the enemy. That's the theme. And we know we've just been studying this work, Tokes, and that Kwame Nkrumah in his path-breaking book, Neocolonialism, The Last Stage of Imperialism, tells us that military aid is the last stage of neocolonialism. And in February, we'll talk about the fact that today's neocolonialists have taken their militarism to new levels. It is no longer sufficient for them to use puppet African military functionaries to carry out the will of Western neocolonialists. Today, these imperialists must directly insert their militaries into Africa. So I think you'll find that topic of interest when we get to March.
Yeah, they're establishing bases in various countries in Africa with the use of the neo-colonial puppets, and so they just feel the need to be here on the ground.
Yes.
And so after March, we have April, and the theme for April is the enemy's impact on African people. So we're looking at some specific effects that it has on our people. And those effects are both the material and immaterial effects, both mental, and then, of course, this impoverishment of Africa and its people.
And I think, that was May, but in April, it's definitely neo-colonial puppets, which you just mentioned in terms of, how it's related really to the March one on the new tactics of the enemy. So we're going to look at some of these neo-colonial puppets and call them out, which is what we should be doing if we are thinking about our people and their liberation. And then in June is what is Nkrumaism. So we talk about the enemy the first half or so of the year, and then we go right into what is Nkrumaism, an ideology named after Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, not to idolize him, but because his theory and practice yielded the greatest contribution to the African Revolution. And so we'll be talking about 7 essential elements of Nkrumaism in the month of June.
Right, and we should always keep in mind that Nkrumaism is in many ways an assimilation, a refinement, the evolution of previous thought. So it's not just, as Mama Dia said, the ideas of one person, but if you study Nkrumaism well, you'll see Garveyism in Nkrumah, you'll see what George Padmore talked about, what Malcolm X talked about, what so many people talked about. You'll see it in Nkrumaism, just taken to a higher level.
That's an important point, a very, very important point in terms of looking at that. And in July, we say how Nkrumaism shines the way forward. We have to get into proving that point. And we use a quote again from Consensusism from Nkrumah, and he says, quote, there needs to emerge an ideology which genuinely catering for the needs of all will take the place of the competing ideologies and so reflect the dynamic unity of society and be the guide to society's continual progress. And of course, that's why we are doing this calendar, to say that we do need such an ideology to unite us and propel us forward. to, permanent liberation.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So by shining the light, it also helps us to identify who we are because we have major identification problems. And so this Nkrumaism, by shining the light, it shines a basic understanding of who we are in relationship to the world and to ourselves.
Very important. Very important. And what do we have for August, Toast?
August, we have a coup d'etat, a necessity, a necessary political education tactic. And that's very current because we see that going on right now in several countries in Africa, and you can only imagine that it's going to continue because the puppets simply can't solve the problems of the people, and the youth using this tactic to bring in to puppet control and trying to bring a more revolutionary socialist understanding.
And that's a real good point because it does not mean, that a coup d'etat that occurs is necessarily revolutionary. It could be reactionary. It's just what it does in terms of overthrowing a present puppet. It might serve as a useful political education lesson that anytime there's a leader who does the bidding of our enemy or who is there just to enrich himself or herself, she can be overthrown, that we don't have to sit there and bleed peacefully. And so it does not mean that these coups are necessarily revolutionary. It means that it can be a lesson to galvanize us to not just sit there and be exploited and oppressed.
Yep. And we have had a number of very successful coups, even though eventually may have been overtaken by the enemy. But we had Thomas Sankara, of course, in Burkina Faso, and then of course Muammar Gaddafi in Libya. So there's some very progressive coups that can really change the direction of the country. But unfortunately, our enemy is working 24/7 to try to overtake what positiveness came from these coups.
Oh, very good addition. And in September, we talk about the resolution of ethnic conflicts, and we see them everywhere, of course, in Sudan as one example. But again, we go to Nkrumah in Class Struggle in Africa, and when he says a distinction must be made between tribes and tribalism. Tribalism arose from colonialism in the era of neocolonialism. In this era, tribalism is exploited by the bourgeois ruling classes as an instrument of power politics and as a useful outlet for the discontent of the masses. So it's very important for us to make a distinction between tribes and tribalism. Because there's no problem with tribes, it's a problem with tribalism. So that has to be clarified. So that month of September is on the resolution of ethnic conflicts.
Right, that distinction is very important because different ethnic groups just means it's the greater diversity of the continent, and that's okay. That's a good thing. Yes. We don't want everybody to be the exact same, so diversity is a good thing. We just show appreciation for the diversity, but conflict and is a whole nother issue.
That's a very good point. Very good point. And then in October, what do we do, Brother Tokes? In October?
The need to unify the Caribbean. And that's very important because we have millions and millions of Africans in the Caribbean who were stolen, of course, from Africa and displaced there. And Nkrumah years ago wrote a letter requesting and trying to appeal for the Caribbean heads of states to unite. He sent a letter to C.L.R. James, who's from Trinidad. So Nkrumah understood that very well, that the Caribbean can make a better contribution to Africa when it's unified.
Yeah, and then and you think how the two will help propel all of us to permanent liberation. So, as you said, the Unified Socialist Caribbean, in concert with the Unified Socialist Africa, will most definitely secure the well-being of Africans throughout the globe, and also speed up the entire world toward worldwide socialism. That's another important point.
Yep, yep. And it dovetails with the last point about coup d'etats, because we had in the Caribbean another very positive coup. I think is that Maurice Bishop? Is that his name? Yeah. Yeah. Who organized a coup, and it frightened the enemy so much that they made sure that he himself was eliminated, for fear of what happened with the rest of the Caribbean. Yeah.
Yeah. And November, we do the necessity of monolithic ideological unity. Tokes, you've written a lot on that. A very important point. And again, the whole point that an ideology aims at uniting the action of millions towards specific and definite goals. And that's what we need in order to fight our enemies. Globally, we must move as one ideologically unified people.
Yep, very important.
And I think our last one is December there.
Yeah, December, with the theme is Organize the Masses, Build the All-African Committee for Political Coordination. Yes, and so that's what we want all the different organizations on the continent to belong to this, and this way we'll be working together and fighting the same enemy.
And Brother Tokes, what do you think about today? I know, Nkrumah was talking about organizations on the continent, but when you think about globally, what do you think about the expansion of that idea to include some Pan-African organizations existing outside of the continent?
Oh yeah, it's very important. I think we have to do that, and it wouldn't be difficult nowadays with so much, communication technology. That would be fairly simple. It was done to some degree when Garvey was operating. He didn't have all that what we have. He didn't have the opportunity to communicate. So it wouldn't be difficult at all. Not that it wouldn't be difficult, but it's with the means are available for us to make it happen, more so than ever before.
Oh, that'd be wonderful. We'd be even a stronger reality, So that is what we're doing, and that's just to give you a glimpse of future podcasts all this year. So this is January. We're introducing you to the theme of our calendar, and then you see or heard all the topics that it take us through from February through December. And so we hope that you will join us all throughout 2024 as we explore these various topics that we believe show that Nkrumaism can shine the way forward through the crisis in today's African world. So as we mentioned, please join us in February when we will examine the enemy of African people. We'll ask the question, who is the enemy of African people? Meanwhile, visit our website, PanAfricanRevolutionarySocialistParty.org. Email us at panafricanrsp@gmail.com. Like us on SoundCloud.com. Visit us on YouTube. Brother Tokes, a lot of our Africa Must Unite podcasts are on YouTube. All you have to do is say Africa Must Unite, and there they are. And you can also leave comments on our Facebook page, www.facebook.com/Pan-African Socialist /.
I'm sorry, but I just want to remind everyone that the organization is the key. Join the Pan-African Revolutionary Socialist Party or some other revolutionary African socialist organization. A union of African socialist states is on the horizon.
Yes, indeed. A union of African socialist states. we got to push that forward like Nkrumah did, don't we, Toes?
Yep,
Always
absolutely.
forward thinking, always looking ahead. So it is on the horizon. We believe it. We're going to work forward. Thank you. We see you in February.
Welcome to Africa, the father of humanity. The great ape is the man in me, and every single man is me. The second largest, most populated continent. The planet's surface, I'm surfing 20% of all the land. Mediterranean to the north, Sena Pasuela to the east. Indian Ocean in the south meets Atlantic in the west. Blessed boss both hemispheres. 54 countries and 11 independent states I got running under me. Fuck with me, 1 billion strong, 15% of all humanity. The largest population majority. Only 19, they rise fast, the most vast mass collective past. Who will last as if racing meant fast. The massive African Union means you do what you doing. United Nations know what we pursuing. Blue and knots, we be dropping music for a free soul, for a free car, for a free cop, for a free people to see where we from.
So big up every ghetto youth and African slave. Land of Africa, where every black man originate. Welcome to Africa, where every black man originate. Where every black man originate. So big up all the ghetto youths and African slave. Land of Africa, where every black man originate. Welcome to Africa, where every black man originate. Where every black man originate.
Welcome to Africa, the father of my fathers and the father of his fathers, the father of your forefathers' fathers. This is Africa, the father of mankind, exploded with culture. It's the motherland's landmine, the mainline's mainland. The grapevine you heard it through left you with a spear in your ear, opposite vertical. The most versatile and overcame all adversity. Knowledge of the name became the world's university. Verbally, no words can be gathered together ever to describe the scribes written by tribes, brought together by God to define Africa, the father of all man. Still standing here today, may we glorify the land. Back to rediscover our mother through our brothers, blue and knots. Truth and knowledge from the Kai word to Mother Africa's black, blacker than the black man that made me a black man. Black man, Africa's back.
So big up every ghetto youth and African slave. Land of Africa, where every black man originate. Welcome to Africa, where every black man originate. Where every black man originate. So big up all the ghetto youths and African slave. Land of Africa, where every black man originate. Welcome to Africa, where every black man originate. Where every black man originate.
Welcome to Africa, the father of the motherland, the father of your brother man from another motherland's land other than African. Out of God, if I can, Africa, Ka can, brother man. Africa, Kafrika, Kufuka, Meleka. I'm in Hotep, I'm in Ra, I'm in the God, and we all Africa. Shaka Zulu, Zulu 2, Zulu rules means if you go Zulu, then you lose. Mozambique, Zimbabwe, and even Zambia, Tanzania, Madagascar, Ethiopia, Botswana, Angola, Congo, Chad and Kada, Sudan's the Nigerian, Nigeria, Algeria, Mali and Mauritania, Ivory Coast, Guinea, Ghana, and even Libya, Cameroon, Uganda, Benin, in Kenya, Egypt to Morocco, and Tunisia, East Coast, Somalia, Namibia, Swaziland, Mali, Sierra Leone, South Africa, Liberia, Burundi, Western Sahara, and the Senegal. Yes, Africa, yes, Africa, yes, Africa for all.
So big up every ghetto youth and African slave. Land of Africa, where every black man originate. Welcome to Africa, where every black man originate. Where every black man originate. So big up all the ghetto youths and African slave. Land of Africa, where every black man originate. Welcome to Africa, where every black man originate. Where every black man originate.